First things first, guys, thank you for getting to this presentation. So a few common questions that we get asked regular from people like yourself who join the community that just have a few questions for us before they actually start the rent-to-rent service accommodation business or expand. So I'm going to run over these questions a little bit more in depth. If you do have any personal questions that you want to ask us, we directly look at our emails every single day. So if your question isn't answered within this screen share, then please feel free to email us your question and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. So without that being said, question number one, which is quite a common one that we get from a lot of people that's in the community. So why would landlords work with me if my business is new? Now, this is a great question, but you need to think outside the box with this. And what you need to remember, it's not about how long your company is being operating for, it's about how you're solving a potential problem for a landlord or an agent. So there's many benefits to a company let. One of them is with Section 24 tax, it actually allows the landlord to claim back on their mortgage expenses, where with a normal AST, they have to pay the full tax on the total amount of that rental property. So just to give you a little example, if the landlord is renting to a residential client, then their mortgage and their rental property is £1,000, they have to pay the full tax on that £1,000. Now, with a company let, there's certain regulations in place that makes it more tax efficient. So let's just say, for example, the landlord was renting the property to your company for £1,000 and his mortgage was only £500. He would only pay the tax on the £500 cost of the rental profit. So as you can see, there's a massive benefit to this. Now, again, like I said, it's about being able to solve certain problems for the landlord or agent. So one of them could be the fact that the property has been on for a while. So the benefit to your company renting the property from the landlord or agent that's been on the market for a while is you're willing to offer that landlord or agent a guaranteed rent from anywhere from 3 to 5 years. Again, this is another solving problem that you're helping either landlord or agent. Another thing that you could always work with when your business is new is being an actual personal guarantor for the property. So your business would be on the company let contract and would be the person who's renting the property. However, you would personally guarantor the rent to make sure that if the company didn't pay the rent, you personally would. This is a great way of handling the objection with new businesses, because at this point, your business might have only been operating for a week or two, but as long as you or any personal guarantor that's willing to operate and invest in your business and 36 times the rent, you will pass referencing as a personal guarantor. So just to make it plain and simple, if the rent was £1,000 a month and you had to be the personal guarantor for this property, you would need to earn £36,000. If you do, then this property is going to be a potential deal for you. If you earn less than that, then you will need to tweak what budget you can afford in terms of the rent. Now, if the property ticks all the boxes and it is £1,000 and you can't afford to pay that because of your salary, this is where the negotiations techniques come in, which we will cover later on in one of the sessions on the live training. Question number two, which is a very common one that we get asked as well, and it's why do I need to become compliant? Now, with the compliancy, this is the legal side of you operating your rent-to-rent service accommodation business. Now, there's certain governing bodies that you will need to adhere to, and this is the reason why you have to be compliant. One, that it shows you that you're credible to the legislations of the business. Two, that you're following certain procedures in place, making it a legal process. And three, it will just show that you're willing to comply with the business industry. So some of the compliant details that you'll need is public indemnity insurance, which protects you against legal costs in case someone was to sue you. But don't panic, all right? Because if you're operating your business correctly and you're doing your due diligence and you're working out your numbers correct, then there'll be no one that needs to sue you. However, if you're not doing it the correct way and someone was going to sue you for projecting the wrong nightly rates or projecting the wrong management or even return on investment, you could possibly be sued. So public indemnity insurance protects you against that. The next thing you'll need is public liability insurance, which is slightly different. Public liability insurance protects you and your guests who are in your property in case they injure themselves. So let's just say, for example, the cleaner was in and the floor didn't dry by the time they left and the guest checked in and they slipped over and sprained or even broke their ankle. That public liability insurance will cover you for that too. Next, a part of being a compliant deal sourcer is registering to a governing body. So there's two major ones out there. There's the Property Redress Scheme, which is the PRS, and there's the Property Ombudsman. You'll need to be a member of either or. You don't need to be a member of them both. Basically, what these do is show that you're complying with industry standards. And if anyone has a debate or they're not happy with the way maybe you've structured a deal or how you're managing a property or any sort of financial difficulties, the Property Ombudsman will fight and take the procedures into court themselves, so you don't need to be there. It's another thing about being a registered compliant deal sourcer. You will have to be a member of one of these bodies. And then finally, there's two other major ones. The other one is the ICO, which protects you against GDPR. So when you start storing clients' information, whether that's an investor or a guest that stays in your property, you are going to want to store this information safely. And the reason for this is, one, if they're a guest that's staying at your property, you can then market to them in the future, giving them discounts, getting more direct bookings. Two, if it's an investor, you need to save their information just in case you get a deal that suits their criteria. So that's an important process that you need to be registered to, ICO. And finally, the anti-money laundering, which protects you in case anyone who's invested within your business or booking nightly stays through your business, if they're doing money laundering, it protects you against that. And it also shows that you have procedures in place that you could identify if someone was trying to money launder through your launder money through your business. So they're the main compliancy regulations that you're going to need. And the main reason why you have to be compliant is to show that you're dealing and you're complying with the industry standards. So I hope that's explained that one, guys. We're going to go on to question number 3. Question number 3, guys, is what's the best way to get agents to work with me? Now, this is plain and simple, right? A lot of people off the back of training courses, they're ringing up multiple agents, multiple landlords, and straight off the back asking for a deal. Now, the reason why you're not going to get agents who want to work with you doing it this way is because there is no rapport built. These businesses that we're creating with rent service accommodation are built on trust and rapport. So what I would recommend doing is learning a way how you can cut through the noise and build relationships with your agents or with your landlords on a more personal level, because people buy from people. If an agent doesn't trust you, or you just straight off the back looking for property deals and not building any sort of rapport, there's going to be a very slim chance that you're going to get the best deals on the market, but just because the agents won't trust you. So to answer this question straight and honest, you need to find a way how you can start to build a relationship with your agents and landlords that no one else is. And a great way that we do it is following up via emails, direct marketing to landlords, to agents, and just consistently keeping them up to date with how our business is operating, new properties that we've taken on, checking in, see if they have any potential deals that would be available for service accommodation, and then carry on that rapport. Another great thing is if you do get a deal through an agent or a landlord, that you make sure that your investor or yourself is the perfect fit. If you take a deal from an agent or a landlord and pass it back within the first 3 months, guaranteed that that agent or landlord will never work with you. So you need to make sure that, one, you've done your numbers, and two, that you can keep up with the supply and demand that the property that the agents or landlords are giving you. So that will take us to question number 4. Question number 4, how can I get more direct bookings? So this is a very, very, very good question. There's many ways you can do it. We can't go into too much depth on this video just because management portfolio and building more direct bookings is such a broad topic. But what I'm going to do is give you some guidance of how you can do that from platforms that are already giving you bookings. So what I mean by that is online travel agents like Booking.com, Airbnb, Expedia. Once those guests book through platforms like that, it should be your responsibility to then follow up with them before check-in and after the checkout, sorry. So before the check-in, what we'd do is just ask them what they do in the area. Are they down here for work? Is it leisure? Do they work for a company? Do they stay in this area often? Again, it's about building those relationships with the guests who are staying in your property. So how we get more direct bookings is reaching out to every individual guest that stays at our property, because what you will find is big companies like to book through platforms like Booking.com and Airbnb, because it gives those the insurance that if there was anything wrong with the property, Booking.com or Airbnb would resolve it, which is natural. If they've never booked with you, they're not going to have that trust. So they will book through platforms like Booking.com and Airbnb, like I just mentioned. And it's your responsibility to follow up with those people and find out what they're doing within the area, whether it's a leisure trip, whether it's a business trip, and is there anything you can do to help them with their stay? Whether that is booking in advance, extending the stay at a cheaper rate, or even giving them 10 or 15% off the next stay if they book direct through you. So that is how you get more direct bookings through OTAs. Like I said, it is such a broad subject to talk about. In terms of getting direct bookings through corporate calls, you would look at how many projects are in the area, and you can go through the council website and see who's developing those developments and give those contractors a call. You can get direct bookings that way. But again, that's a more strategic way of getting direct bookings. The way you want to focus on at the moment is just following up with every single guest that stays in your property through a direct booking platform. Now, guys, that takes us to question number 5. Agents keep saying they don't accept company lets. Now, this is a very common ground that we get within this industry, and it could just possibly be because they know that's how to get you off this phone call. But the truth of the matter is, the company probably do accept company lets, but they've had 15 or 20 calls that day, and they just don't want to explain any more information about why they're not going to accept you as a company let. So what I would recommend doing is reverting back to the question, I think it was question 3, about building rapport with your agents, because you'll find out that a lot of companies and a lot of agencies do accept company lets. It's just because you've not built that rapport. However, that being said, some companies just do not accept them. It's in their policy that they don't accept company lets, even though the landlord may accept it. So if that is the case, then it's a no. You've got to strike it off your list and don't give this agent a call in the future, because you just know that they're not going to accept them. But I would always recommend trying to open a dialogue of conversation and find out whether that they don't accept company lets as a company policy, or the fact that they've just had 15 or 20, even 30 calls that day, and they can't be asked to explain or speak to the landlord about why they should let the property to you underneath a company let. So to answer this question short and sweet, it comes back to building that rapport with the agent or the landlord to make sure that you get the best deals on the market. Question number 6, where do I start in rent-to-rent service accommodation? So this depends on what your goals are, how much time you have, and what your finances look like. We have done a free training video on this in the private group, which hopefully by now you have joined. So what we recommend doing about starting in your rent-to-rent service accommodation business is just working out exactly where you're at. So if you have a little bit of time where you can make calls on the weekends or potentially evenings to agents or landlords, then that's where I would start doing. That's where I would start. Start building that confidence. Get a call script, which is in the education pack, which you should always have access to by now. and start going over the call script. Because if you do have the time and you've got the confidence, that is where you're going to save thousands of pounds by doing it yourself. If you don't have the time and you don't have the courage to pick up the phone and start ringing agents and landlords, then I would start looking for reliable rent-to-rent service accommodation deal sources. Now, there is due diligence that needs to be taking place when working with deal sources. One, making sure they're fully compliant by checking their ICO, PRS number, indemnity insurance, and the rest of the insurances we spoke about previously in question 2. So that's where you would start if you was going to source yourself. If you didn't have the time, get a deal sourcer. The next question would be, are you looking to do this as a side hustle, or are you looking to scale it as a business and make an income from this every single month? Now, if it's a side hustle, then you're probably just going to want to source the properties yourself and potentially give them to a management company for them to do the thing and you keep the profits. If you're looking to scale the business and make this a full-time thing for yourself, then you're going to want to learn how to manage the properties yourself, because even though it is only 15% you'll pay a management company, once you get to 5, 6, 7, or even 10 properties, that 15% soon starts to add up. So if you have 10 properties and you're paying a company 15% to manage it for you, at the end of the month, you may be paying that management company around 5K, potentially more. So if you're looking to scale that business, I would always recommend getting the education, learning how to manage your properties, learn how to get clients in, learn how to get more direct bookings, liaise with cleaners, systemize the whole business. That is the way that you're going to grow. So again, if you've got any questions on these questions, please feel free to email us, which takes us to the next question. Question number 7, how do I know if my area works for service accommodation? So at this point, there is a bit of due diligence that you can do to make sure that 1, the nightly rates work out, and 2, that you're getting bookings within the area. So first thing you can do is go on Airbnb and you can actually check whether calendars are booked up within your area. 2, I would always make sure that there is a demand for work. Is there corporate companies in your area? Is there a lot of construction? Are there multiple people that travel to your location for potential leisure? All these things factor whether that your area works or not. So just to recap, first things first, go onto Airbnb and double check that the property is getting bookings in your location. 2, make sure that there is a demand of corporate companies that need accommodation. And 3, is it a leisure area where you can capitalize on weekend stays? So guys, that is the common questions that we get asked on a daily basis from the members of the group. So what I would ask is, if any of the questions that we've covered today haven't been answered for you, please feel free to email us direct and we can answer those questions. Alternatively, if you're looking for more support within your rent-to-rent service accommodation business, there will be a link somewhere within the email where you can book a strategy call with us and we can help you through this in more depth and help you get more deals and scale a lot easier. So I hope it answered all your questions, guys, and we will speak to you shortly.